I'm Martha Romero, and I'm the vice chair of the board. And in the absence of our chair, I will be overseeing the meeting today. And so I want to thank you all for being here. It's always helpful when we have people who are interested enough in the work that we do that you will come and share your presence and give us some support that way. So thank you for being here. We have a quorum. And so I would entertain a notion to adopt the agenda or make any changes that are needed.
I move to accept the agenda.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. President's report?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just want to highlight a couple things that are in my written report. Santa Fe Community College recently earned the designation as being a 2015 military-friendly school, so I guess we got it in advance of 2015. But we're proud of that. We're one of the top colleges that various ratings prove that, and we hope to get our number up and get some other recognitions. And Dr. Gonzalez and Greg Scargill are doing a great job down in the Veterans Center. We also submitted a $15 million grant to the Department of Labor. It's focused, we're the lead in a consortium of 11 New Mexico community colleges. It was originally going to be closer to 20, but we did not get the HED support to do the data portion of it, so we did just the academic portion of it. And so it's a consortium with 11 New Mexico colleges, and it's focused on pathways, acceleration in technology and healthcare. And so it's a spin-off of our Skill Up Network program, and we call it SunPath for this particular one. We'll talk a little bit more about this in August, but the HEC construction is still actually a little ahead of plan. We have approval from P&M for the solar array there. So we now have all our solar arrays approved by P&M, and we'll be working on all the installations. And I do want to thank all the people who participated in Pancakes on the Plaza. There was a big turnout. We had a good presence there, and a lot of people were recognized. And there was an editorial in the New Mexican on June 30th calling for Santa Fe Community College and the city to collaborate on enhanced hospitality education in our region. I had a meeting in the mayor's office yesterday. We actually jointly issued a letter in response to the New Mexican that I hope will show up in the paper sometime later this week. And we have some ideas and some plans that relate to the Higher Education Center that we hope to be able to announce in the future. And then last, I just wanted to let everybody know that Laura Mulry from our Marketing and Public Relations Office and Chris De La Rosa, our Chief Information Officer, have both been accepted to participate in the Leadership Santa Fe program. And so they will both be representing the college in that this year. So that's my summary report.
Well, congratulations to Laura and Chris. That's great. Let's see, we have the Employee of the Month.
Yes, so for the Pass It Forward, Don Wink, our interim director of teacher education, has been nominated by Laura Mullery. Laura?
She's not here.
Sadly, Dawn was not able to make it, so I brought her picture.
Oh, yeah.
She really did want to be here. Excuse me. I was very flattered to be honored to receive this award last month, and Jane Abbott nominated me, and I felt it of great value, and I wanted to pass it on to Dawn, and I wrote this for her. Dawn Wink deserves the Pass It Forward Award because she is dedicated, thoughtful, kind, because she shows deep concern and caring for her students, because she shares her enthusiasm and energy, because she has an optimistic outlook and a twinkle in her eye, because she has a great blog, because she wrote a wonderful book called Meadowlark, and I have a show and tell of the cover because I passed the book on. Because she honors people, the past, and others' perspectives, and because she represents the college well. Congratulations, Dawn. And she said to say thank you. In fact, there's a response to read. Did you have her response?
I do.
My heartfelt thanks for this recognition. Your generous monetary gift went toward a rare splurge on a facial. Thank you. The water bottle is my new favorite, and perhaps now I am at last hydrated. Deep gratitude for creating the rhythm for this honor within the structure of our college. So very much appreciated.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you, Laura. And this month, the Wildgram, Angela Ortiz nominated Kahalan Fittis. So Kahalan's here. Angela's not here, is she? Come on up, Kahalan.
Well, thank you, President Grissom and SFCC board members. It's with great honor and pride that I received the Wowgram this month from my colleague Angela Ortiz. I'm the academic advisor for the School of Math, Health, and Sciences, and I'm also affiliated with the Center for Academic Transitions. And it's with great pride that I help all of our students, and we have a great sense of teamwork in that school and with the whole SFCC community in assisting our students with achieving their academic endeavors. And I just was so surprised when I got nominated and I received this delicious gift card to Applebee's and treated my sweetheart to a really nice dinner over there and just had a really nice time with everything. So I thank you all very kindly, and I thank Angela as well. And I know she wasn't able to attend, but I was just very grateful that I was able to be recognized.
Great.
Kahalan, thanks for all you do.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any public comments? Okay, no public comments. So we'll go to the Faculty Senate report. No Faculty Senate report. They're on vacation. They're on holiday. They work harder during the summer sometimes than they work during the year, but we always call it vacation. Staff Senate report.
Good evening, and thank you guys very much for all the wonderful work you do. I know especially you're having a very challenging summer, and we appreciate the work, even though sometimes the results of these budgets are challenging for us as well. But I know that you guys have to make a lot of tough choices right now. So you've seen our minutes, no doubt. And I'll be honest, I've been on vacation for a few weeks, so I missed the last meeting. But I did meet with some of my colleagues this morning and got caught up. And I think the minutes more or less speak for themselves. We have some issues we'd like to, in the long term, address with HR, and you received our memo about that, but that's not something to be addressed immediately. And the biggest concern that came up at the last meeting was concerns about the changes with the student employees. And so some of the concerns were how it was allocated from department to department, and some of the students who may have been making plans on a greater amount of money that now they weren't expecting there would be a change in their income from reduction of hours. And so some students have made plans on that going into the year, and there were concerns raised about how that might affect students who may have left a job or taken on leases and things for greater amounts of money. But I could answer any questions, but those were the greatest concerns that came up for us.
Any questions from the board? Were your concerns addressed?
These are things that will, over time, again, when we come to report at the board, it's more to keep you up to date, and as time goes on, things will come up through the governance council to board level for being addressed.
Madam Chair, I'd just make a comment. I did meet with the officers from Staff Senate without Zuby, because he was on vacation, to talk about some of these issues, including the student workers. And I do want to just clarify for everybody, the amount in the budget for this year is the same dollar amount as last year. We did increase the rate. We were both morally, we thought, and probably even legally obligated to do so to meet the minimum wage for Santa Fe County. So that means we have less hours available. I have charged each of my managers, each of my VPs, and everybody in their areas to do what is best for their area. It does not mean that every individual student has to work less hours. But I've asked people to come up with solutions to how can we have to live within the budgeted dollars we have. So we have a total amount of hours available. And however people want to do that to meet their needs, we're empowering different groups to decide for their areas, because it varies across the campus what the real need is for operations.
Mr. President, I have to say that some of the students bring some concerns about the hours was reduced less than 15 hours too. And is it possible that we can keep the student in 15 hours, the student doesn't get no raise in some way, but they can keep in the same income? It's going to be good. Because in some way, some students in some areas get less hours than 15.
Okay. Chris?
Having been a staff employee for over 20 years here, the staff senate is really critical for me. And so just as a reminder, another poke, is that I think it's really critical to get as many staff members involved as possible, so that you can, as a staff, president and stuff, to get input from everyone, because it hasn't always happened, and I know the president does support that people, if they want to go to the meetings, they can, and one of the things we did was we did a picture of the entire campus and said, do we have a representative of this area or that area, whatever the area might be. So that's my thing. My statement is that I, as a former staff member, and my heart's still here, that I think that it's really critical to get input from as many staff members as possible.
And also, that is a priority of the Staff Senate right now as well. We've been going out and having meetings in departments to try to just clarify, to make sure. Some people don't understand that they're a part of Staff Senate, and so we're working with marketing, public relations, to come up with a marketing scheme to make sure everyone at least is aware that they are part of it and they have the opportunity. And I think there's been a perception among many staff that ours is a place where people come to complain, and we've really tried to focus beyond that we're a place where people can raise issues and we can find solutions that haven't even been raised. We're reaching out. We're also looking at we've created a new constitutional structure. We're looking at a bylaw structure, and we're looking at potentially having representatives by area as one of the possible. So in addition to having everyone welcome at the meetings, having people who are actually responsible to make sure that all communication gets back to their area and all communication from their area gets back to them. I've been spending a lot of time myself going out and just trying to make sure the people who have less access to our meetings, the people, especially the janitorial staff that works in the evenings, making sure that they feel that they have access, that there's opportunities for them to hear and talk about what their concerns might be, and make sure that they're heard by us. So we're working on that, and it is our priority.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And by the way, I know that challenging situations create the best innovations, and I have great confidence in the leadership of our college to come up with great innovations to deal with our challenging situations.
Thank you. Appreciate that support. All right, the approval of the consent agenda.
Oh, student government. What about student government?
Oh, the student government.
Well, we don't have too much to say. That the concern about the hours of the students, we'll try to asking if it's possible to keep the student in 15 hours, no less than this, because in some ways, some of the students, this is the only income they have. And Santa Fe is not cheap place. In some way, they need, to keep this income to them. And I just only asking this, we can evaluate the way it's possible to keep the student in 15 hours, but it's going to be okay. In some way, they don't have a reduction in his salaries. Okay.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman, can I add to that?
Sure.
We leave it to every department to look at it, but I just want to let everybody know, we also always have students who only work 5 to 10 hours a week. That's the schedule they have available. So there are no rules other than student workers cannot work more than 20 hours per week during the semester. So we're leaving it up to management and staff to work on this. But we've always had students that have worked 5 hours a week, 8 hours a week, 10 hours a week. So they've not all worked 20 hours a week. So.
Thank you. Any comments from the board?
No.
All right, the approval of the consent agenda.
I move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. I have a couple of, does anybody have any questions about the minutes?
No.
I have a couple of technical suggestions. One is, as I read the minutes of the work session, there's a section from where Jerry Wills talks, and the pronoun that's used is we, because that's what he was saying to the group. But when you hear it in the minutes, it's confusing about who the we is. So we either need to enclose it in parentheses, in quotation marks, or we need to somehow attribute that statement to him. When the president says we assume it's the college. It's we, the college. But when an external member says that, it's confusing. The other technical suggestion that I would have is that somewhere in there, Vice President Gonzalez is quoted as saying, in avoiding the open meeting law. That's not what is meant. What is meant is
Not violated.
we're not in violation of the open meetings law, and so we should correct those minutes because technically for the future they could be important. So, that's the only comment I have. Anybody else have any comments about that? Okay. All those in favor of approval of the consent agenda?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, and there's nothing related to policy, although I will tell you that we have been working. Our work session today was practically all on board policy, and you'll be seeing more and hearing more about that. Nothing was removed from the consent agenda. Non-consent, the approval of the financial support.
Madam Chair, I'm going to give the report. We do have Anita Rainey here in case there are any questions. Just to remind you, Anita is the consultant that we have brought in to help us out and serve as interim controller. Even though she's a consultant, she's functioning pretty much as our controller. What you have here is the June 30th financials. These are the least reliable for final numbers because this is year end before we've made all the adjustments, and even once we get into July we still are spending some dollars that get booked in June because we have to do that whole cleanup. But this is a preliminary look at it. The main thing I want to point out is on page E3, public service for the year, the conference center ended up making quite a bit more profit than was done in the previous year. 78,000 versus 19,000 the previous year. The kids campus came in at a loss of about 214,000. That's less than the prior year, but I want to remind you that does include an employee settlement for somebody who has not been here for a number of years, and so we didn't impact their financials for the end of the year. The bookstore was still made a good profit this year, not quite as high as the previous year. And dining services still has a loss, but it's much less than it was last year, so we are at least seeing improvement there. And the East Wing Eatery did end the year at a loss, but it was also about half of what it was last year. And we were working on that and have really moved that into being more of an instructional program. So I know that's always been of interest to you. If you go over to page E6, cash in the banks, we still have a lot of cash because of all the bond programs, but they're all earmarked dollars for those bond capital projects. We do have a little bit of a concern on the cash flow for the rest of the year, and so we're doing a complete analysis for that, and we will be getting back with you on that. It's the timing of cash comes in big chunks from the county twice a year, but we still have to pay bills between those big influxes of cash. So we are taking a very close look at that. The financials for year end, if you look on page E10, you're going to see on some of the things we're going to look at for the bar and everything else, you're probably going to see a few changes from what's actually in this financial. But one of the things that we did discover that we had been using the wrong beginning fund balance for ING fund balance. And so we have changed that to reflect the fund balance that was in the audited statements for June 30th of 2013. And so that's the beginning balance for this year. As of right now, in ING, we have ended the year with a slightly negative fund balance. But once again, this is a pre-final closure and audited situation. And with the bar we're looking at today, that'll fix some of that. And that's pretty much, other than that, everything is pretty consistent. You do still see some of the receivables out there, although we do have a large $1 million in receivables. The amount that's over 60 days is much less than it's been for a while. So if there's any questions that either Anita or I could answer, we'd be glad to do so.
Questions from the board?
No questions.
Questions? None? Okay.
Need approval.
Can I have a motion for approval, please?
Make a motion to approve the financial report.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Additional funding for the NMAGD,
SBDC. So Russell, you coming?
yeah.
Who's coming up? Russell?
the
Stuart.
SBDC.
So Russell Wyrick, who's our state director for the New Mexico Small Business Development Center, and Stuart Graw, who does his financials
Right.
and keeps him on track.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Russell, before you get started, let me just make a few comments. So the process is, if any of our programs wants to request money through the Higher Education Department, through the RPSP project, or even eventually go into the legislature, we need to do a step at a time. So the governing board needs to approve their going through that process. And this is what we've done for a number of years. And, you know, what happens at the end is often very different than what we asked for. But we have to go through at least the process.
It's always more positive, right?
Yeah. Russell, you want to present what the request is?
Yes. On arrival, I began the position in January of this year, and I took the opportunity to visit the state. And so I visited all 20 of the centers and then the International Business Accelerator in Santa Teresa to identify the opportunities to increase job growth, the job growth rate in the state. And in identifying the needs and the opportunities, developed a budget of where we could invest to get the biggest return to leverage our current resources, and identified that in total we need about $800,000 to $850,000 to leverage our resources and achieve that. And again, whether we identify that in steps or whether we take in lump sum, we're seeking permission to approach the HED to request that funding to put towards a program and move the state forward in job growth.
Do you have any comment? Not at the moment. Okay. All right. Any questions?
Question, how many jobs do you anticipate the growth of jobs in the state in this amount,
Through this funding?
through this funding?
In moving, the strategy we're looking is to, right now we're staffed to meet the needs of those that are walking into our SBDC service centers. Mm-hmm. The strategy is to get the counselors and staff them in a position where we can reach out to our existing business community and reach to stage 1 and stage 2 companies that have 10 to 15 employees, that through management assistance we could move them to 25, 30 employees. So in that perspective, I have an ambitious goal, and it's because of the need of the state. The Jobs Council has identified we need 160,000 jobs in the next 10 years to get back to pre-recession levels. And so my ambitious target is I'm looking to at least increase our job creation by 50%. And I think it's and we can achieve that by pursuing the right clients and getting the assistance to the individuals who are in a position to grow.
And what would this $800,000 to $850,000? Would that be in programming? It'd be in staff or training?
It's to fund additional business advisors of a higher skill set that have the ability to step into a business that it's not just they're opening a beauty salon. It's a larger business in the community that needs specialized assistance to help them get over the step to actually result in additional high-paying jobs for the community. So it's staffing.
Okay, other questions?
Just a quick comment. This year, on August the 21st, is a State of the Region conference. And it's Northern New Mexico coming together to talk about the economy and also to go through an exercise to identify what that job growth can be in Northern New Mexico, at least in the 4-county area between Santa Fe and Taos. And I would just really encourage you to be there because that information is going to feed into the Jobs Council and their projections of what can be done on the ground. And I think it's really important to have the SBDCs there to participate and be part of that process.
Thank you so much for that invitation. We have taken efforts to align our strategies with the statewide economic development plan and make sure that our actions are moving in the same direction. Thank you very much.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Okay. Motion to approve?
I move to approve the plan brought forward by the SBDCs.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Yep. 65%.
65. You're giving them odds, okay.
All right. 5-year plan for the HED submittals, capital improvements.
Welcome. My name is Henry Mignardo, and this is Alex Solorzano. We're members of the Planned Operations and Maintenance team. We're here this afternoon. First of all, thank you all for allowing us to present before you this afternoon. Chairman, members of the board, President Grissom. We're here this afternoon to present just a real quick highlight on the HEC. Higher Education Center, we're going to give a real brief update on the five-year plan, and that's with regards to our submittals to HED for capital outlay requests for 2014. So first of all, if you all would just refer to the handout of the HEC update. Did you get that? If not, I've got extra copies here.
Thank you, Henry.
I'm not going to go through all of these, just a real quick highlight. There's a recent picture of the HEC. Currently, the project is at its halfway mark. It remains healthy, on schedule, on budget, and we are meeting all the quality codes and standards. The owner's contingency is 100% intact currently, which is about $400K. The expected substantial completion date is December 23rd. The final completion date is January 8th, 2015. The contingency for our contractor is also 100% intact, and that's about $100K. So far we've managed to manage the project without using any of our contingency funds. We do expect some change orders coming up, and you'll be hearing about those in August. The earthwork is 99% complete. We had no debris found, and there were no hazardous materials. So we obviously saved some money on the environmental impacts on that. Just an update on the project. Its exterior framing is about 60% complete. The plumbing, mechanical, electrical on the first floor is about 80% complete. Curb and gutter is 40%. All the utilities are up and running. We're on P&M power. We're on Sangre de Cristo water. And the roofing has just started. We hope to have the roof done by mid-August. So the project's proceeding quite well. And as Randy mentioned, as the president mentioned, we have all of our P&M approvals, if you will. They're not necessarily all approvals, but they're authorization to construct. And they've given us authorization to construct our demonstration array, the 1.5 megawatt array, and also the HEC array. So we're in good shape with P&M.
Henry, just to remind you, the picture's up there now. So the solar array at the HEC is both on the roof of the building, but also a portion of it's over the parking lot. And we actually had to reduce the amount on the roof because of some requirements have expanded. The first time you saw this, I think the parking lot piece was about half
Yeah.
that size.
Yeah.
So we've expanded the area of covered parking that'll have solar arrays on it.
There were some design issues with wind shear on the number of panels we had on the roof, so we had to reduce the footprint on the roof to eliminate those wind shear issues, and we put those panels on the ground on the parking lot.
Questions?
Here. I'm sorry, ladies first.
A quick question as a reminder, I know you've told us this before, but what percentage of our power is going to be covered by the renewable, the solar?
Currently, it remains to be seen, but the best expectations in our calculations are about 70 to 75%.
Okay.
Yeah, all these calculations can vary. We are not going to be able to know exactly until the building is operating.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Henry, I'm always wanting to make sure that our community knows what's up. How big of a sign do you have on Siringo? Because I haven't seen anything yet.
Member Abeta, there is no signage on Siringo because their city owns the lot before the HEC lot. So that isn't our property. However, we are negotiating with the city for a monument sign that would go on the road off of Siringo, so you could see that from Siringo and Yucca. Currently, there is no signage on Siringo. So really, the only sign you see is if you go up.
On the fence.
On the fence, yeah.
Yeah. I think it's real critical that our community, because that was the bond they voted for, and, I think that they want to see what their bond is creating, and so many people, they think this is out in the boonies, man, but right in town, right there, I think, the community of people that I know, they not only want to know what's going on, but they also are very proud of having something from the community college being built right there, so it just, if we can, get the city to help us out there, whatever we need, I think it's important.
You bet. We'll pursue getting some recognition on the street there for the HEC and let folks know that bond money is being spent on that building.
Anything else? Motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Okay, great. Thank you.
In favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Thank you. We'll move on to the five-year plan now, if we can. And that will be the presentation, Ken. Yeah, there we go.
This is it? PowerPoint. Okay.
It's on the flash drive.
There you go.
Okay, this is the plant operations and maintenance update for the HEC. As I mentioned, we'll be seeing, it's the next,
Slideshow, just do slideshow. At the top, right next to animation.
Right where you were.
Animations, go to the right.
there you go.
Now from beginning, there you go.
Next slide, please. So just a heads up in anticipation, next month we have a sidewalk that we've added from the south driveway. We want to be able to unload from that south driveway and actually walk up to the building. And so we've added a sidewalk there. We've agreed with the city and Santa Fe University of Art and Design to add a left-hand turn painted sign on the street, if you will, as well as a physical sign that identifies as a left-hand turn only. And we've currently agreed to put bollards up on that north exit and to be used as a north exit only. However, we did get agreement from them from the city that we would be able to operate for 2 months to see if there really is a traffic issue out of that north exit.
So because Henry said one thing, but we're going to use it to begin with, but if there's too much traffic trying to go through the university, we'll put the ballard down and we'll only use that as an emergency exit, and we'll have everybody come in and out the other side. So
Who's going to monitor that, the city or are we?
The city is really just kind of moving as we go on this, and there is no plan and no monitoring, and they're not even sure how they're going to study the traffic. they're trying to appeal to Santa Fe University Art and Design because they have a lease with them, and they have some concerns on that lease. We've also added some window treatments, some shades that will dearly be needed in that building, as well as we got a real bargain on 13 additional parking spaces, so we went ahead and went with them. So these are the anticipated change orders that will be seen here in August, that you will be presented in August.
So Henry, how many parking spaces do we have total?
Currently, if I'm not mistaken, 100,
145, I believe.
yeah, 150, I was going to say 145 plus the 13 additional.
13
Okay.
more.
Yeah, so we'll have about 158, give or take. Next slide, please. This is just to show you all, we went with the brown, which will be the entrance of the building. The light brown will be the majority of the building, and that blue color on the left will be the courtyard color.
Madam Chair, we're going to try to get the board over there for a tour some evening after construction is done for the day and look around. But they've built a mock-up, so it shows they can practice how to put the windows in,
Yeah.
take them out.
Yeah,
see
that's,
what the real colors look like. This is a mock-up.
yeah, that is a mock-up, as the President was describing, and the contractor used this mock-up fairly extensively. On the other side, you can't see the steel framing, but it's exposed. So they're exercising and training each other as to how to frame these windows. And then on the exterior, we went through the layers of plastering, the layers of sealing the windows, and then they actually pressurized the windows with a jet spray out of 100 PSI to see if there's any leaks. And so they iterate this process until they perfect it, and then we go and install 50 of these windows on the building.
And you also can see the flooring, the different type of floorings that the building is going to have. That mock-up has the concrete floors and the raised floor that is going to be in the vestibule in the entrance of the building.
So we practice, the contractor can practice a lot of their difficult construction issues on this mock-up, and that's what the purpose was. Next slide, please. There's some pictures of the current construction progress. Next slide, please. Ongoing with projects on campus, we have a couple of other projects that are well underway. As the President mentioned, our solar PV installation. We've installed about 350 of 730 pylons that will actually be mounting the solar panels on. This project is well underway. We're scheduled to be complete September 24th. There was one hangup that we identified during the progress of the of our installation of the PV array, and that was with P&M. And they identified, in order for us to hook the PV system up, that we have to provide what they called at first a recloser. And once we got into discussions with them, they called it a interrupter, which allows us to hook up our PV array system, our solar system, to the P&M main grid. And it also allows us down the road, which we have some capital outlay for, to set up and install a microgrid system. So this interrupter is a shielding protection system from our PV array to P&M, and also from a microgrid system to P&M system. So this allows us to not only shield ourselves from P&M and P&M to shield from us if there's a problem or a fault, but it also allows us to independently ramp our solar system up for 25%, 50%, or 75% power if we want to ramp it up at our own pace. So we can actually monitor and manage our own PV array system with the interrupter. The slight problem with that is we didn't know about the interrupter during the design. The interrupter is required for designs of solar systems that are underground. Our system is underground. We have a transformer, we have power to a pole, but from the transformer to our campus is underground. This will be the first underground solar system installation that P&M has done. They have done several solar systems, but they all have been above ground pole systems. So associated with that, they tacked on this interrupter that's required, and the cost of the interrupter is $101,000. P&M has offered to maintain the interrupter, buy a spare interrupter, and also maintain spare parts for the interrupter if we purchase the interrupter, and we're required the interrupter before we can hook up to their system. So that's the glitch. The interrupter is scheduled to be delivered September 30th. P&M has to train their crew because they never installed one underground. And the anticipated installation for our interrupter is on or before October 15th. So between the time of September 24th, when our solar collector system is completed, installed, and the time that P&M installs the interrupter, we will not have protection system on the solar system if we turn it on. However, it's the same protection we have on our campus right now. So the interrupter adds an additional lever of protection. So that's the point where we could probably ramp the power at 25% power until we get the interrupter and then go full power. That would allow us to do that as well. So just an insight, we're still negotiating with P&M. I asked him if we could pay for the interrupter with our credits, and he didn't have the authority to authorize that in the meeting. I asked him if we could pay for it over time with our bill, and he didn't have the authority to authorize that at the meeting as well. But he understood that we were looking for the funds to pay for that if they could help us. So we do have an agreement with them that we're going to try and identify how to pay for that interrupter.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Do you have an estimated cost of that? What it would cost to?
The interrupter? Yeah, the interrupter is about $60,000. The installation is $40,000. So it's about a $100,000 item. Any other questions with the PV array?
And this was not included in the original budget. This was something that P&M indicated once that they approved our project.
Yeah, they came after the fact with this, and we even got different quotes from different parts of P&M. First started at $40,000 and then went to $100,000. So it's been a little bit confusing. The other project we just completed is the fitness center and west wing roofs. The next slide on that presentation. Both of those roofs were completed just recently. We finished the west wing. The fitness center was completed last year. The fitness center was about an 84,000 square foot roof. The west wing is about a 45,000 square foot roof, and both are complete with a 15-year warranty. Next slide, please. We're currently involved in the adjunct faculty renovation. As you can see, that's our plastic shield there, and just some pictorials of what the area could look, some of the furniture may look like. And there's a schematic against that plastic there that shows the new design of the adjunct faculty area. And that project is well underway, scheduled to be complete before classes start this fall. Now we get on to the HDD submittals, if you will. And that's that file, Ken. Yeah, and the 5-year plan.
Let me kick this off real quick.
Okay.
You can go in detail. I've met with each of the board members, and we've gone through some of these, but just for those in the office, what we've done is put together a 5-year plan that's required. We've got to submit it to HED. We have some things in here that I would actually call placeholders because we haven't had a chance to vet everything yet, but we have to have something to turn in. So you're going to see in the things Henry's going to talk about, there's a lot of infrastructure and learning campus improvement upgrades. There's also the potential for planning dollars and construction dollars for a performing and technology center and potentially for a second phase to the Trades and Advanced Technology Center building. And I just want to remind everybody, these are so far out. These are still placeholders at this point in time. But a performing arts center has been on our master plan since the beginning of time. And so we're trying to figure out how we might be able to look at incorporating a performing arts center and a technology center together. And it maybe could even include a new version of a library. So part of this will be to seek the funds to actually do the planning and programming for a facility and then to go back out for other dollars. So I just kind of wanted to make the lead-in statement for you, Henry.
Perfect. Thank you, Randy. Actually, as Randy described, a lot of these projects that we're asking for funding from the higher education and from the state and ultimately local bonds have been on the books here at the college, and we're refining that plan. And of course, it's a living document, as we described in the previous board meeting. We'll be looking at this document on an annual basis and updating it on an annual basis. Each year, HED requires submittals. One of them is our square footage, the other is our 5-year plan, and our request for capital. So this is the 5-year plan. The request for capital will be made from this 5-year plan. The smaller institutions are requested 2 priority projects. The larger institutions, 3 priority projects. I've included 4 priority projects because that's what our master plan consists of. So our first priority project is the infrastructure and learning space improvements. There are three funding sources primary for the college's capital. That's the severance tax bonds. Those are typically on the odd years. The state general obligation bonds, and those are on even years. And then the college local community obligation bonds, and those are typically on odd years as well. The election is on even years, but the funding is on an odd year. So having said that, the next year cycle is STBs, and after that we would have gone out for a local bond 15, but we've declined to go for the local bond 15. So the next bond after that will be the state bond again, and then we'll go out for the local bond. So the first one will be severance tax, and as you recall, in the past years, we've been receiving 75-25 from the state, 75% fund provided by the college and 25 requested from the state. We're actually going to be asking for 100% severance tax bond because we've been missing out on that funding. So we stated for loss of funding in previous years. So we're asking for...
Just to add, so what that means, in previous years, we provided more match than we really had to. Other colleges have been providing just the 25%, and in some cases, 0. And we've normally provided 60 to 75%.
Yeah. And the state administrative code is 25% from the college and 75% from the state. And you can ask for variance even on the 25%, and some schools do, as the president indicated. Okay. So we're asking for 100% because we've been providing 75%, and so we're asking the state to kick in a little more for the last years we've had. And that's predominantly for infrastructure. We're going to use that money for learning space improvements, new carpet, new paint, new furniture, and predominantly learning spaces, any of our learning spaces that require upgrades. We'll also be doing some infrastructure improvements like boilers, chillers, and roofs. The next priority project is the one that the president referred to as program and planning money. That's the predominant feature of this funding, and that will be in July 17. This will be the state general obligation bond. We're going to ask for $5 million. We're going to ask for funding for programming and planning of the Performing Arts Center, and the remainder of the funding will be for infrastructure upgrades and improvements. Here we're asking the state for 75%, and we would supply 25%. Our 25% will come from our local bonds in 2017. Which leads us to our priority 3, which would be, priority 1 was the program and planning for the Performing Arts Center. Priority 3 would be the construction of the Performing Arts Center. And that would be $21 million, $11.5 million going for the Performing Arts Center. And we're asking again 40% from the state and 60% in this case from local bonds. That concludes our priority 3 project. It's again $11 million worth of infrastructure and $10 million worth of, $11 million for the Performing Arts Center and $10 million worth of infrastructure.
Madam Chair, it's hard for us to change our ways, but we're calling it a Performing and Technology Learning
Center. Yeah.
So it's not
the title escaped me, but it's Performing Arts and Technology Learning Center. And then priority 4 is our TATC Phase 2. And that's where we ask for funding to build our TATC Phase 2 building. And that is about a $11 million building, and again, $1 million for additional infrastructure. So that funding takes us through 3 funding cycles: STB, state, local general obligation bonds, and local general obligation bonds. That takes us through funding cycle 2015 through 2021. There's a itemized list in your docket that you received called a project breakdown. I don't know where that is on yours. I'll let that come up on the screen here. And this is our estimate, along with the president and other expertise on campus, of what projects require renovation, and also our future projects like the Performing and Technology Learning Center and the Trades and Technology Center Phase 2. Theoretically, for that 7-year funding cycle that I just described to you, we're asking for $40 million. And this chart is our chart here at the campus, and this will allow us to break down every project. And if you will, on the right, we have the STB, the 2017 state bond, the 2017 local general obligation bonds, and we'll define what funds from those bonds will pay for which projects. Total projects in 7 years are $40 million. So we'll fill this chart out with more detail as we go.
Yeah, and I will get you a copy of this. I don't think this one's in your.
Can you enlarge that just a little?
Can you zoom in a little?
So we'll just take, for example, we'll use the Performing and Technology Learning Center. We won't receive any funding next year out of STBs for that. But if you look at the following year, that's the $5 million we'll receive from state general obligation funds. $2 million of that will go to learning and learning space and facilities improvements. Looks like 1.1, I can't quite read it. I think it's 1.5 million. Will go to the programming and planning of the Learning Center. And then 1.8 million goes for infrastructure improvements. So of that, that's where we would spend that 5 million. And then if you look at the following year on the general obligation, local general obligation bond, fiscal year 17, we'll get $4 million out of that 21 million for facilities improvements, infrastructure improvements, learning space improvements. We'll get $10 million to complete the Learning Center. I can't quite see it over there. And then $6 million for infrastructure improvements. So it's showing you out of each one of the funding cycles what funding we will use for the individual projects on the campus. It's just a breakdown of our funding.
And Madam Chair, just to remind you, of course, there's a lot of decisions that still have to come before any of this happens. About the only thing we know for sure is we do want to seek the $2 million for infrastructure improvements from the legislature next year out of severance tax bonds. A lot of planning still needs to go in and legwork on this. And obviously, we would have to make a decision to go out to the local voters for a GOB bond, or a local GO bond. And the earliest we would even consider doing that would be in 2017.
Yeah, Chris?
Well, I wanted to make a public statement, I guess. I've always been a supporter of, the performing arts, having been a member of the Arts Commission and involved in music in my community. And I just think from the very beginning, when I was here in the groundbreaking, talked to Dr. Witter about just how critical, Santa Fe is international, and Santa Fe has so much soul and so much things happening here that I think it would be such a positive thing to have a performing arts center with technology. Oh my God, it'd be great. And I just, I really want to just come out and say, I just totally support something like that. And it's always been a dream of mine to see that here at the community college. And I'm hoping, because it'll bring us more writers, it'll bring us more performers, it'll bring us more creativity, and there's a lot happening locally. That there's a lot of soul out there, and they don't need to go anywhere else. They can stay here, and because we have so many great teachers and so many, there's so much here that we're able to tap onto. So, performing arts and technology, boom. Anyway, thanks.
Thank you. So at this point, we stand for any questions. This is what we'll be submitting to HED as part of the 5-year plan and as part of our capital request for next fiscal year.
Any questions?
Assuming you approve.
Yeah, as soon as we get approval, of course.
Madam Chair, I just don't have a question, I just have a comment. I think that's having a 5-year plan really makes it a lot easier, I think, for the board to look at long-range planning and to look at some of the priorities of the college. I think what you're proposing, Henry, is something that will enhance this institution to raise to a higher level, I think. So thank you for all your planning and your staff for
You bet.
for all you're doing.
Thank you, Member Cedillo, and just to compliment the President on this, because quite frankly, the progress on the HEC and all our progress on our 5-year plan and all our progress here on campus couldn't be done without the decisiveness and leadership of the President. So I really want to commend our President for that. I really appreciate his involvement in my day-to-day activity. So thank you. Well said, Member Cedillo. This is a living plan, so obviously it's all for your purview and your input, as well as the college. And we're we're ecstatic. We want to make this a world-class institution. That's our goal. And we hope we can accomplish that. And I know with your all leadership, we're on our way.
Kathy, you had a question?
Madam Chair, I have a couple of questions. Can you talk with us about what the process is for the 5-year plan? Who do you get input from? Does it come internally from campus stakeholders? And is there a process for external stakeholders in our community to weigh in as well?
Yeah, Member Keith and members of the board, there was a 5-year plan developed here by a consultant along with the college before my time. And that plan was developed, I presume, with consensus from the students in the community to a certain extent. And what we're doing at this point is we're taking that 5-year plan and we're improving it based on what we know current and input from the president and students and faculty and staff. But they're probably at this point, it's been 5 years since that plan, I call it a master plan, since that plan has been revised, and it's probably time, and we're going to be in discussions with the president, it's probably time to revise that 5-year plan, master plan, and that's where we would go out to the community and solicit input as well as the college and students and faculty and staff.
Madam Chair, Member Keith, just to let you know, we didn't go through all the process we would have liked to have done with the whole college, but we still have a chance to do that. We think this incorporates a lot of things that are both in the strategic plan that we've just approved as well as in the master plan, and prioritizing and look at the programming, that'll still come up. And so before we get to these major projects like planning for a new building and what all it includes, we will go back and involve all the shared governance groups and the students. But some of these things did come up in the strategic planning process and some of the surveys we did, the feedback we got from the community especially related to some of these things. And obviously where our funding comes from in the future, the growth in the STEM and healthcare related programs is very, very critical. And so a performing and technology learning center could incorporate new and updated film programs, facilities. We were talking about getting back into some of the radio programming. We're doing more and more with KSFR these days. Things are all going digital, so that's a whole different world for everybody. And of course, by the time we get this built, digital will probably be out of date, and we'll have something else. But we're getting there.
Did you have another question?
Thank you. Thank you. So, as an add-on to that, when would we have the chance? So on an annual basis, do we have the chance to approve a 5-year? So next year, before July 1st, basically, if we went out and did public comment on a new 5-year plan, we would have a chance to update what we're submitting?
Yeah, there's a couple of attributes that go with the 5-year plan, and that is what the state uses to monitor capital outlay for the legislature, and it's called the ICIP, Infrastructure Capital Improvement Plans. And they also have what they call a CPMS, Capital Project Management System. So what we put on our 5-year plan, we also put on the ICIP. So when this serves, what it really does is it serves as a foothold in the state through higher education that Santa Fe Community College is going to need $40 million over the next 7 years. So the state can project how much they need to ask the governor for higher education on capital. They have projections that they can make. So that's really what this serves. And as the president mentioned, we'll be changing buildings and we'll be training infrastructure issues over the next 7 years. But we're always got our foot in the door as to approximately how much we're going to need.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
A follow-up question. Our very first item up there is kind of the reconditioning of buildings. Can you talk to us a little bit about that? What's the life cycle on those buildings? We have such beautiful facilities, but what I'm hearing you say is there are some places where we need to maintain.
Yeah. The college predominantly, for the most part, was built in the early 80s, 82, 84 timeframe, 86. These buildings are 25, 30 years old now. So a life cycle of a commercial building is 25 years. The life cycle of commercial equipment is 20 years. So the boilers and chillers are at their end of their life cycle. So we're looking at, and that's what that detail list was that you asked to enlarge. That has the chillers by wing, the boilers by wing, the floors by location, the roofs by location. We have identified every roof by letter, by size, and so forth and so on. So we know which parts of the infrastructure need to be improved when.
Okay, thank you. One final question, Madam Chair, and then I'll be done. Can you tell us, or maybe the President can tell us, is there still an embargo by the State Higher Education Department on building new facilities? Or has that been lifted and we anticipate that we're able now to build facilities?
I think the embargo is gone.
It's over.
The challenge is that we're not getting funded by square footage anymore.
Okay.
So if you build a new building, you've got to cover all the cost in your current base budget. Now, they are looking at in the formula funding revisions that may be going back because they've realized that they've really hamstrung the colleges on growth issues like that. So there is no formula funding per se for building square footage, building renewal and replacement, equipment renewal and replacement.
Okay.
So, but the embargo is not there anymore.
Okay.
There's still an embargo on new campuses outside of your service, this taxing district.
Okay.
But the quote moratorium, that expired April 2013.
Okay.
So as Randy mentioned, this governor wanted to reinstate it, but she wasn't getting much acceptance from college presidents.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, and
Any other
construction is new jobs.
I have a little question, Mr. President. And besides, I support the wastewater treatment plant innovations. I have a question. What is the future of the running track and the baseball fields and this area of the Santa Fe Community College?
The wastewater treatment plant, as you'll notice, is in every infrastructure.
Yeah, I know.
That's continually we're going to require upgrades. That's one of our facilities that's obviously 30 years old and had a lot of abuse. So we'll always be working on the wastewater treatment plant. With regards to your second question?
The running track.
Oh, the running trap in the fields.
Yeah,
Yeah, the baseball fields has got a potential for down the road, perhaps enlarging or moving the ropes course. The running track is approximately $1 million to upgrade, and it's in our plan, but it's just a little ways further down.
Madam Chair, you may have said it, Henry, but this is all tied into our strategic plan.
Yes, sir, it is, Member Cedillo, and I'm working a lot with the President and Yash. That actually was one of the beneficial exercises of going through this 5-year plan this time, was to marry it with the strategic plan and ultimately to get our KPIs aligned with this as well.
Good. Thank you.
Any other questions? Have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we have an approval of a resolution on employee benefits.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Al.
Good work.
Madam Chair, members of the board, NMCA, which is the New Mexico Public Schools Insurance Authority, who is our insurance provider and benefits provider for both our health coverage, our life insurance coverage, and our actually liability coverage for the college, has made some changes in their rules. And we need to pass this resolution to avoid them enforcing upon us the providing of benefits to different classes of employees for whom we did not plan nor budget to provide those benefits. And it has been our intention to go along with the Affordable Care Act when it comes to health care coverage and provide it according to that, and that's what we have been planning for. Basically, NMCA's board has allowed colleges to pass a resolution regarding part-time and temporary employee eligibility for employee benefits, and that if we pass this resolution, then we can establish our own rules and do not have to go by their revised rules, which would require us to provide health care and life insurance coverage to anybody who worked 20 hours a week, even if they were a temporary employee for a few weeks. And that is just an onerous amount of money. They've also indicated that they might make us go back and pay for life insurance for people 3 to 4 years in the past, which we've been arguing there's no sense in paying life insurance for somebody who is still alive for last year. We could start it today if we had to go there. But this has been an onerous situation. Colleges are having to pass a resolution similar to this, and we don't want to be forced to provide what they tell us to provide. We want to be able to provide what we set as our own policy and guidelines.
So the 3B, it resolves at the end of this document are really what we're
Correct.
working with. Are there any questions or a motion to approve?
I so move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. The chair would also entertain a motion that this resolution be included in any kind, in the policy revision in the HR section that needs to have this motion or this resolution included as a policy adaptation. So I would ask for a motion for that, to that effect.
I so move.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on that?
Madam Chair, let me
Yes.
just, for some of the people in the audience may be wondering why we're doing this. When we pass resolutions, there's no teeth in them or life to them if we don't put them in policy. So we have pretty much decided that as we go forward with resolutions that relate to a policy, we're going to make sure that we go and change the requisite policy so the resolution has teeth to it and it is in the policy. So and that will flow through the governance process as we do that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. The approval of the 14, funding year 14, bar 2. This is new. Oh, okay.
Thank you, Randy.
Madam Chair, what I've just passed out is a little more detail to what the bar will look like as we turn it in to the higher education department. But really, the summary page that you were given earlier today that has the original budget for FY14, which is the year that ended June 30th. And then in the middle is bar number 2. And then on the right is a revision to the budget for FY15. Just to let you know what we really did in the final approval of bar number 2, which is the middle columns. What I just handed out to you, if you look on the very last page, these are the explanations for the budget adjustments. So what we've done in a revised bar number 2 for the year that ended June 30th is we've adjusted revenues to reflect actual, and that includes the actual amount for the local appropriation, which was overestimated in the original bar number 2. We adjusted, as I talked about in the financials, the beginning balance to tie to the audit report from June 30th of last year. We made sure that all expenditures were increased based upon the technology costs that we incurred during the year, and then we recognized the other additional expenses like faculty members in Exhibit 10, the reduced number of deans in Exhibit 11, and as you can see, some reflections there. The end result is that in FY14 with this bar, we will have $35 million, $32.9 million in revenues added to a beginning balance of $2.5 million, so that gives us $35,400,000 available for the year. We spent $35,600,000 for the year, so our ending fund balance before transfers would be negative, but we were able to do some transfers from public service back into the to public service and back in from different places. I'm getting it confused, but anyway, it's the transfers in and out. The negatives are in ends are in parentheses, and the outs are without parentheses, so that our ending fund balance is $1,067,788. The target for higher education institutions is to have an ending IMG fund balance of 3%, and that's what we've been able to obtain. So we spent more money than we brought in last year, and we're going to have to fix that in FY15. So we're here to answer any questions you may have about the bar, and then we'll do the budget, which is the last column, in a second.
All right. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Are there any questions? Okay. All those in favor of approving the bar number 2 revised?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And now we have the approval of the revised budget.
Madam Chair and members of the board, in the revised budget, this is very similar in a lot of ways to the budget that you did approve, except that we changed the beginning balance. If you remember when we had the budget discussion back in April, we only had a beginning balance of about $127,000. So now it's $1,067,000. And then we adjusted expenditures. We reduced some expenditures in institutional support. We made some changes in the transfers. Some of those were required transfers in and out, so that now we would have an ending fund balance of a little over $1,058,000 at the end of FY14. We've got to get this in shape. We did not lower the local appropriation number, but I'm just going to alert everybody that that is going to have to come down because it is way overstated. But we tried to minimize the revisions to the budget, and we will be doing a bar number 1 to adjust the budget for FY15 fairly quickly. And we're going to have to cut some money because the amount of revenue coming in from the local is not going to be $17.9 million, and we know that now. So I'm available for any questions at this time.
Any questions?
No question.
Motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. All right, and I think we move to the information items. Thank you, Randy. Let's see, strategic planning update.
Very good, yeah.
Madam Chair, members of the board, President Grissom. My name is Julie Gallegos. For those of you I haven't met already, I'm the Planning and Quality Officer with OPI, and I'm here to report on the strategic plan update that was included in your board packet. A couple of the things that I wanted to mention: we're working on creating an annual report for the strategic plan. We're collecting data on the KPIs that are presented in that plan, as well as evaluating the strategic planning process that's been happening for the previous year. That report will be presented in August. We're also working on creating division and department level strategic plans in order to carry the institutional plan down to the lower levels of the college. There was a chart that was included in your packet. I don't know if we have a slide of that.
F3 if you haven't got it.
There you go.
That shows you the progress that we've made in this area. So far, OIT and OP have both completed strategic plans. Other divisions that are in the process are academic affairs, the foundation, PALM, safety and security, and student success. And then we have a few that are yet to be started: finance, HR, and marketing and public relations. Marketing and public relations, we do expect to start on that plan within the next couple of weeks. I think HR and finance are on hold until those offices are ready to start the planning process. The hope was to get through this division level first, and then move on down to the departmental level. But we do have a couple of departments, well, one department and one school that have already started this process. Bernadette Jacobs has started in her school, and then distance learning has also started that process.
Schools.
Oh, I'm sorry, schools, yes. The other thing that we have going on in our office is related to budget processes. We've been working with Carmen Gonzalez and a task force to create, not to create, but to revise the new budget request process that was put into place last year. There were some revisions that needed to happen, so those have happened to the prioritization rubric, and now we're in the process of creating new documentation of the process, as well as a new training plan. And then OPE is also working with stakeholders on creating a rubric that will help to ensure that the current budget is in line with the strategic plan. So we have multiple things going on, keeping busy.
Questions? I have one. What is the timeline for the strategic planning process to begin for those units that have not yet begun?
As far as the division and departmental plans, we hope to complete the division plans, I believe, within the next 2 to 3 months, and then move on to the departmental plans. I'm not sure. Hope to complete that in the spring then, I guess.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I have a question of ignorance. So what is PALM and what is in MPR?
MPR, Marketing and Public Relations.
Okay.
PALM is Plant Operations and Maintenance, am I correct?
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
Madam Chair, just add one thing. We will have an update for you at the August board meeting on the KPIs
Great.
for the past academic year, and you'll see, is it 3 years or 3 years? Okay.
Terrific. All right, the enrollment update, Dr. Gonzalez.
Madam Chair, members of the board, I believe in your materials, you probably have the last week's. And so I've given you the most current one. And as you can see, this summer, we did pretty well this summer. We grew actually in head count almost 5%. And I'm waiting until you all get.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Donna.
So the top one is, the comparable by date, and the bottom chart is comparable by the end of the semester. So we're in our 6th week of the term, and I don't expect to see much of a change from here. You know, there may be a few people that drop or a few people that have been added. And as far as our fall registration, we are down, but we are improving each, like last time when I presented this, I think we were down 7%. We're now down 5%. So we are improving. And if you look at the bottom chart, we have a long ways to go before we get to that. That would be the end of our semester. So for the fall, I would look at the top chart. And I think that we will probably be able to show growth by the time the semester starts, and by the time the semester ends. Yash sent me something today that was about dual credit. And what was it? Was it 97%, Yash? Over 3 years, we've increased dual credit by 97%. And a lot of that has to do with moving a lot of dual credit to the high school, and I imagine that we're going to see a big increase when we go to the HEC. So that will have an impact on our enrollment.
Madam Chair, members of the board, this is a topic of discussion. We had a meeting of all the independent community colleges a couple of weeks ago, and we got to talking about enrollments. And if I remember correctly, San Juan and Santa Fe community colleges are the only ones that saw an enrollment increase this summer. And many of them saw as much as a 20% decrease. And, you know, as the economy gets better, we anticipate that we will flatten out. I think the fact that we have some new programs, we have some growth in some areas is going to help us do that. But I would not be surprised if we do not flatten out this fall compared to the previous fall. There's just not enough growth going on unless we add some new programs, and right now it would be hard to add programs although we are looking at some, if we can find some external funding. But I was kind of surprised to find out that if I remember correctly, there was just 2 of us that saw increases this summer.
Questions from the board?
Okay.
Thank you.
Questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I believe we have
Deborah, you're up.
Ms. Bolt on the foundation. And the board at its retreat decided that it was important for us in our continued liaison with the foundation and our increased participation with them that we have a report from the foundation at every meeting. So this is the start of that. Welcome.
Thank you. Madam Vice Chair, members of the governing board, President Grissom, thank you for making that available for us to give a report at every meeting. The report at this meeting does not have our full financials, and as I have just learned that the August meeting will be on the 12th, that will also pose a problem. So if I could wait until the September meeting to provide those financials, that would be much better. You'd have a more complete picture. However, we had a very good July, and the last 3 months brought in $127,410. And those gifts, some of those large gifts, were a result of a gift from the lab, from Los Alamos National Laboratory and Los Alamos National Security for Sustainability Studies, $75,000. Close to $29,000 from the Brindle Foundation for to hire a company, Shaning and Associates, to do a business plan for the development of a Center of Excellence in Early Childhood Development at the kids' campus. And the first meeting of that contractor with the advisory committee is tomorrow at 9. So we're really happy about that, and we think that could be a wonderful development for kids' campus and the college. P&M Foundation.
Yeah, let me add something to
Yes, sir.
there. So the Brindle Foundation is not only funding the cost of the contractor, but they're also going to fund 2 student interns to do research. So we anticipate one of those student interns to come from the early childhood education program, and we're hoping to get one from business or accounting to work with the business plans and the financials. So, and they're going to pay the students. So.
Yes, that's a very good thing. P&M Foundation provided $20,000 for our veterans who are enrolled in the Building Operators Certificate Program. And then we had other gifts that went to the campus cupboard, $5,000 from a private family foundation, and $4,000 towards a scholarship, which is a very interesting. I'll get into that in a minute. We also, in this past quarter, were involved with getting the report from the Huddleston Group that did a complete analysis of our fundraising capacity. And we're very grateful to the governing board for their involvement with that in that meeting, particularly to you, Vice Chair, and to Member Cedillo. We're grateful to have this opportunity to work closely with the governing board, because we haven't had that in the past. So we're really looking forward to a much closer working relationship. And we have some things planned to follow up with the people who had been interviewed, some cultivation luncheons that the president will host. And our board has really stepped up. The Leadership and Board Development Committee is reviewing all of our policies and planning recruitment, orientation for new board members, and this is really going to help with expanding the reach of the foundation. So we thank you for that involvement. Very happy to say that we did meet our goal of 30 new scholarships in the 30th anniversary year. And I have to really thank President Grissom for his lead gift and for his leadership in general for this. We also have Chair Linda Siegel, who I know is not here, was instrumental in helping us, Member Cedillo, and also staff and faculty here, Dr. Carmen Gonzalez, Janet Weiss, Henry Mignardo, and Kelly Smith. So many people went into the securing of scholarships. And what it means is that we now have 245,000, a little over that, for new endowed scholarships. Not all of them are endowed. We got 7 presidential scholarships, which are $15,000 minimum to create a presidential scholarship. We had 13 of what we call our regular endowed scholarships, which is a minimum of $8,000. And we had 10 non-endowed scholarships that we received through the Institute for Mexicans Abroad, the IME Becas program, which is part of the Mexican federal government, and through our partnership with the consulate, the Mexican consulate in Albuquerque. We are applying for $20,000 for the next funding cycle, and we will match that with $20,000. So that will, hopefully, that will come through, and we'll apply as soon as they announce the program is ready. But I just want to point out that some of those scholarships, I mentioned that that President Grissom and his husband created a scholarship in their name. Dr. Gonzalez created a scholarship, Access to Education, Title V scholarship. Janet Wise and Henry Mignardo helped to secure a scholarship from the production company that produces Longmire, the television series. The rental of the property went towards creating that. And thank you, President Grissom, for helping to bring that about. Kelly Smith asked her uncle John Pacheco, and when his mom passed away, he created a new scholarship to honor his father and mother. Zuby Wilson helped to create a scholarship through the Solar Club. Just to give you an example of how many people helped to make this happen. Linda Siegel created the down payment for the Santa Fe Human Rights Alliance scholarship that will benefit an LGBT student. So we're really, really happy about that. And Member Cedillo helped to secure a scholarship through Santa Maria de la Paz Catholic Community and the Peace and Justice Committee, which he serves on. So thank you, Member Cedillo. So we're very excited about that. We have $180,000 is the matching amount that we will have to raise for this year from the Title V. We're in our 5th and final year, but we've met our goal every year, and we plan to do it again this year.
Thank you, Deborah.
Are there any questions?
Madam Chair, just want to add one thing about the Longmire production. They rented our HEC construction site twice. Once we used to endow a scholarship that I think is aimed at the film community, if I'm not wrong.
That's right.
But the other time, we got $4,000 to go to the campus covered. So we've used it for 2 different purposes, and it's been great. And if you watch a Longmire and you see a casino under construction, that's actually the HEC.
Thank you.
You can look at all of them on Netflix, which I've done. It's great series.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah.
I think that completes our information items. The announcement of the next board meeting, it occurs to me that Member Siegel has a conflict on the 12th, so I'm wondering if it's possible for board members to meet on and someone here cannot meet on the 13th. What does the 14th, which is a Thursday, look like for you folks? Is that a possibility?
I've noted that that's convocation. Does that create a problem with this?
Well, no, convocation's in the morning. We could do a board meeting at night.
Yeah, I think we talked about that.
As long as we don't do a work session until 3, from 1 to 3, we're going to be doing an Achieving the Dream activity with academic affairs, but I don't have to be there for all of that, and so the other people that are there could come to the work session late.
Okay.
So the 14th would work.
All right, so let's plan on the 14th for a board meeting, which is a Thursday, and that's pretty unusual for us, but August was a very difficult month for us to find a date that was compatible for everyone. Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
I would just, I'd like to ask that Public Affairs make that change on the website immediately so that we let the public know, since it's not our normally scheduled date of when the new meeting will be.
Yes, thank you. Okay.
Madam Chair, members of the board, it will also be in our published calendars and posters.
Can we still get that changed before the August one starts being printed? Okay, good.
Thank you, Laura. All right, we would entertain a motion to go into closed session.
So moved.
And we'll go in for discussion of pending or threatened litigation and limited personnel matters.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
So.